Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to unravel a story you think you know, a story about history, technology, and some of the most magnificent creatures on our planet.
So let's just dive right in with a question. You've probably heard this one before. The discovery of petroleum saved the whales. It's a nice, neat story, isn't it? Technology swooping in to save nature. But is that what really happened?
Yeah, this is the simple, comforting tale many of us were told in school. A single invention comes along and poof, an entire species is saved from the brink of extinction. But as you can probably guess, the real story is a whole lot messier and, frankly, way more interesting.
So, before we can really bust this myth, we've got to understand the whale itself. I mean, why were these animals so incredibly valuable? Why were entire economies built on their backs? Well, we're not just talking about animals. We're talking about biological miracles.
Let's start with the brain. A sperm whale's brain weighs 18 pounds. Just let that sink in. It's the largest brain of any animal that has ever lived. So right away, you know we're not just dealing with swimming barrels of oil. These were giants of cognitive complexity, with social lives we're only now beginning to grasp.
And they are absolute masters of the deep. They routinely dive down to 3,000 feet. We're talking about pressures that would crumple a modern submarine like a tin can. They do this by literally collapsing their lungs and storing oxygen in their muscles. It's just an incredible feat of biological engineering.
And down there, in that pitch-black, high-pressure world, they don't just survive, they dominate. They hunt with a kind of biological sonar, a series of clicks that are, get this, the loudest sound produced by any living creature. They can literally see with sound, and those clicks are so powerful they can actually stun their prey. So what was the big prize for hunking these amazing creatures? It was this waxy, oily substance called spermaceti, found in their massive heads. For the whale, it's this brilliant piece of engineering for diving and echolocation. But for humans, it was liquid gold. It made the absolute best, brightest candles, and was the finest lubricant for the new machines of the Industrial Revolution.
And getting that prize, well, it was nothing short of a war. A brutal, terrifying fight on the open ocean between men in tiny wooden boats and a 60-ton, incredibly intelligent predator that absolutely could and often did fight back with deadly force.
Okay, so petroleum is discovered in 1859. That should have been the end of this brutal hunt, right? Problem solved? Well, let's take a look at what the data actually tells us. Whoa, this timeline, it just completely flips that myth on its head. The discovery of oil didn't stop whaling at all. In fact, what came next? Things like steam-powered ships and explosive harpoons. It supercharged the hunt. It led to the most destructive era of whaling in all of human history. And this chart, man, this just drives the point home. Look at these numbers. The century before petroleum, whalers killed around 300,000 whales. The century after, nearly 2 million. The age of oil was, tragically, the golden age of whale slaughter. So what on earth happened? Why? Well, it's pretty simple economics. Kerosene only replaced one use for whale oil, lighting our lamps. But the Industrial Revolution was absolutely booming, and it created a ton of new uses for other parts of the whale. Everything from lubricants and margarine to soaps and even plastics. The hunt didn't stop. It just got more efficient. Okay, so if that simple story about petroleum saving the whales isn't true, then what did? What actually pulled them back from the edge of total annihilation? Well, the real answer is way more complex, and it has a lot more to do with us than with our technology. It wasn't one single silver bullet. It was more like a three-part evolution. First, we had to find chemical substitutes for all whale products, not just lamp oil. But maybe even more importantly, our whole way of thinking about whales had to change, and that created the political will to finally do something.
And this cultural shift was just profound. For the very first time, people could actually hear these creatures sing, thanks to this groundbreaking album. We saw activists in little inflatable boats putting their lives on the line to protect them. We slowly stopped seeing whales as just a floating resource to be harvested, and started seeing them as intelligent, sentient beings who had a right to exist.
And that cultural awakening, that change of heart, it had a direct political consequence. It created the public pressure that was absolutely necessary for the International Whaling Commission to finally, after decades of failing, enact a global ban on commercial whaling. That was the real turning point.
And you know what? This combination of chemistry, culture, and politics, it worked. The industrial-scale slaughter finally stopped. And, in the quiet that followed, the songs of these giants slowly started to return to our oceans.
And for some species, the results have been nothing short of a miracle. Humpback whales, for example, were hunted down to maybe 5,000 animals in the entire world. And today, their population has bounced back to around 80,000. It's one of the greatest conservation success stories of our time.
But, and you knew there was a but coming, the story doesn't end there. The battle to save them isn't over. It's just changed. The explosive harpoons might be gone, but now they face a whole new set of threats. Deadly collisions with huge ships, getting tangled in fishing gear, and an ocean that's just getting louder and warmer every single year.
So I think the takeaway here is pretty clear. Technology alone didn't save the whales. It just changed the equation a little bit. What really mattered, what made the ultimate difference, was a fundamental change in our values, our collective choice to see them as something more than just a product. And now, as they face a whole new wave of threats, that choice is more important than ever. The giants are singing again. The question is, are we still willing to listen?